The debt ceiling deadline gets moved up to this coming Friday, so we're going to have some interesting conversations throughout the week, including the fact that CNN, wow, I don't know why I put so many C's in that, why CNN wants to put so much of the blame on McConnell, mostly because he is the lightning rod here, but we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. In other news, cinema is confronted again, this time in an airport, and we talk about why it is that people feel the need to confront her over this. OPEC is going to turn on the spigot once again as oil prices spike above $81 a barrel, and a fight comes from Canada over what's going on with Michigan and the ability to sell oil here in the country. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. And finally, the Rocket Man himself is going to space. Shatner books with Blue Origin, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. It's going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon! I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I think that the Q thing is over at this point, so I think I can change the opening tagline at this point. I think I'm going to do that. I think our new tagline is going to be, let's go, Brandon. We'll hold that for a little while, at least until the college people come out and stop saying it at every event, or somebody finally accosts them for doing so, which I feel is coming down the pipes at some point, and I will be watching for more of that as well. It is interesting where people think that it's okay to go say fuck one politician, but they don't want to come back and say fuck another one because of the letter after their name, and it's all arbitrary. But I mean, it's the same thing that we're going to be talking about on Top Story today, where we will never ever put the blame on a Democrat for anything that happens with debt or the government shutdown. It always has to go on the highest ranking Republican, whether it be a Republican president or a Republican minority leader in the House or in the Senate, or maybe even a Republican Speaker of the House, whoever the highest ranking one is. Because I do remember under Barack Obama, it was always Paul Ryan. It's all Paul Ryan's fault. No, nobody else has the blame on this. This is all Paul Ryan's fault. Obamacare, the shutdowns, everything else. It's all Paul Ryan's fault, which, living in District 1 in Wisconsin, I feel a great agreement with Democrats on the fact that we can usually blame a lot of our problems on Paul Ryan, but that is a story for another time here. We've got to get into some news and talk a bit about what's going on in the news. It's not as heavy of a news day as it's been. It is a little bit lighter than it's been, but I did get to add a few things right on at the beginning of the morning here because a couple things broke overnight, so we're going to get through all of it here. But before we get started, of course, we got to go back and sell the wares. First and foremost, thank you to Britt from the Freckles and Britt Show for coming in and hanging out with me last night and talking about the news. We talked about a few things off mic too, and well, I think that there are going to be some changes maybe going on around here. I think if come season 4, I'm still looking for guests, we might just be changing the name of the program and might be looking for a new co-host. I don't know. I do, first and foremost, want to continue to work with Elaine. I'm not doing this as a deadline, and I'll talk to her about this too, but I really like working with her. I do. Even if I've had to wait around and look for guests for everything, that has been probably one of the most positive experiences I've had working with somebody on this network. And I've had great guests too, but that may be coming down the pipes here. We'll probably talk a bit about that and what's going on. And also, make sure you guys go and check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. We are still in a preliminary stage, so something cool is coming very soon. I have discussed it with Bobby Joe, and looks like we're on the same page as to what we want to build here. So now it's just a matter of getting the money out there to her and getting everything coming up and started. So something cool is coming very soon, though, so go and check that out, bookmark the page, and you will know once we start to see, well, I mean, you'll know from this program, once we start to see some actual news articles coming up off of this as well. Video news articles, I think we can make something work off this. I think it's going to be cool. And if you guys would like to get in on the bottom of this, you can go check out a GoFundMe that we have set up to set ourselves up to a point where, you know, we've got to get some money so we can get it over to Bobby Joe. We like Bobby Joe around here. We like her a lot because she's coming over to help us and she has the same idea. And we're sitting in a position where we don't have to worry about getting shut down or anything like that. So definitely go check that out. Let me put the link into the chat for you. We are a quarter of the way there, by the way. 500 raised out of a $2,000 goal. Plus, once I open up the account that we're going to use for this, I did have to put a little bit of money into it as well for myself because they had to have money into it to open the account. So we're up to 525 because of that. Unfortunately, it's the first week of the month, so that was all that I could put in right now. But that's another story for another time as well. Let's get that into the chat for you guys so you guys can see what's going on. And yeah, if you guys do want to help out, that's greatly appreciated. Most of our donors are anonymous, but if you want to be named on the webpage, we will put your name on the front page and say thank you very much for coming here and starting up with us at the bottom and helping us work our way to the top. All right, let's look at finance for the morning here. Looks like yesterday the Dow had a down day, but I looked over at a Fox Business article while I was show prepping. It looks like we possibly are seeing a futures have come up overnight here. I know when I went to bed last night, it was all doom and gloom. And the futures are down. It looks like the stock market's going to fall off again the next day. But everything was green on Fox Business when I set everything up for the morning. So maybe they turned around overnight. We will see. The Dow is at 34,002 points. 2.92 points, I should say. So it lost almost 1% last night, 323.54 points. And we will continue to see where this goes. I think the debt ceiling thing is going to shake a lot of things up. But I do think that investors are going to look positively because the mainstream media has found a way to blame Senate Republicans. Your Bitcoin is at 49,937 US dollars even. Another day of going up on the Bitcoin, so those of you who got it on sale, congratulations. And of course, we should always, this is not official financial advice, look into various things like this. But once again, I mean, if you guys wanted to donate crypto to me, I could make the crypto wallet. But if you donated Bitcoin to me, I would probably sell it and get a different crypto because I do think that there might be some glowy glow on as far as Bitcoin goes. I've been suspicious about it since after the pipeline thing. But that's what we see coming off of that. Your scrap metal, your hard assets. Copper took a turnaround, and it looks like everything took a turnaround as far as the top went here. Copper is up on the average. Steel is down on the average. Aluminum is up on the average. On individuals, it looks like all copper is on the upswing right now. All copper. Brass, wire, tubing, bare bright. Everything looks like, oh, shells. Shells are down. So when you go to the range, hold on to your shells for a little bit. Steel is up. Iron, light iron is down. Number one steel is down. Cast iron is up. Rotors are down. A complete car is down. And shreddable steel is up. Stainless is down. Aluminum is just as mixed. Siding is up. Clean aluminum copper fin is down. Radiators are down. Cans are coming back up. Sheet aluminum is down. Rims are up. Rims have been on the climb almost the entire time we've been doing this. I think there have only been a couple days where rims have gone down, but they have come up to 68 cents a pound. Yesterday at 67. Motors and ballasts are both up. Catalytic converters are both up. Batteries are down. So that's what we're seeing coming back up out of the metal here. All right, let's check in with our friends over at IBD. Dow Jones futures rally as stock market sell-off worsens. These 5 tech giants tumbled. From Scott Letonin. Dow Jones futures rallied 150 points early Tuesday following Monday's stock market sell-off. Tech giants Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, PayPal, and Square tumbled, while Tesla stock rallied in strong deliveries on Monday. On Monday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average slid 0.9%, the S&P 500 tumbled 1.3%, while the Nasdaq plunged 2.1% even after pairing some losses. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple slid 2.5%, Microsoft moved down 2.1% in today's stock market. American Express and Merck are holding up well in the current stock market correction. As a person who works semi-retail at some point, I am surprised over the fact that I'm seeing American Express show up onto this. I think in the past year, 2 years, I have seen like 3 American Express cards. It's usually Visa, MasterCard. I have seen one Discover too, which actually kind of surprises me. And at the last place that I worked, where I also did credit card transactions every once in a while, somebody did try to come in with a Diners Club. And it worked. I'd never seen one of those before in my life, but somebody did come in with a Diners Club. Tesla rallied nearly 1% Monday on the back of strong deliveries. Moving further above the stock's latest buy point, tech giants Nvidia, PayPal, and Square all sold off sharply on Monday. Among top stocks to watch, Netflix and ServiceNow were holding up relatively well during Monday's stock market weakness. Microsoft, ServiceNow, and Tesla are on the IBD leaderboard. American Express is an IBD swing trader stock. Netflix featured in this week's Stocks Near a Buy Zone column. On your futures, ahead of the stock market open Tuesday, Dow futures rallied 0.5% versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures also moved up 0.5%. NASDAQ 100 futures also climbed 0.5% versus fair value. Remember, trading in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Among exchange-traded funds, Innovator IBD 50 dropped 2.8% on Monday. NASDAQ 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust lost 2.1%, and the SPDR S&P 500 descended 1.3%. So a few numbers coming off of here. It looks like some of this is retail, and some of this is going back into lockdown stock. We're seeing the Nvidia, the PayPal, the Square. Some of that's actually coming off here, but the Netflix is, they're watching this to say, hey, can this come back up? And ServiceNow, if I remember correctly, is also a lockdown stock. So, I mean, that starts to beg the question, is the government going to come back and lock us down again? And I think a lot of that does have to do, and I think a lot of that's going to hinge on whether or not the whether or not the government shuts us back down again, if they can get their debt ceiling increased so they can go back and print off more money and continue to pay people to stay at home. I do think that is a possibility, so that is something to watch as to whether or not, and I mean, all this stuff is interconnected. If we don't get the debt ceiling launched, there is no way that Democrats feel they can reasonably lock people down again. But we will see what happens off of that. Let's grab one here from CNBC. Dow falls 320 points. To start the week, NASDAQ drops 2% amid a tech rout. From Maggie Fitzgerald. The major averages took steep losses to start this week as investors continued their rotation out of tech stocks amid rising bond yields. The Dow Industrial Average fell 323.54 points to 34,002 despite large gains in Merck. The S&P 500 shed 1.3% to 4,346. The technology-focused NASDAQ Composite was the relative underperformer, dipping 2.1% to 14,255.48. Large tech shares like Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Microsoft were lower as investors eyed bond yields. The surge in rates to end September knocked highly valued tech stocks. The 10-year Treasury yield was slightly higher on Monday, trading around 1.48%. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield hit 1.56% last week, its highest point since June, with investors concerned about inflationary pressures and tighter monetary policy. Social media giant Facebook lost 4.9% after being accused of a betrayal of democracy by a whistleblower who revealed her identity on Sunday. Yeah, and the shutdown yesterday probably didn't help either. We'll be talking about that just a little bit later on. I haven't looked at the betrayal of democracy by a whistleblower. So we're going to bookmark this page after we're done, and I'm going to look into that because that's interesting. I saw something about a whistleblower, but I looked at this and I said, this is a Veritas thing, so I want to wait to see if something actually is verified off of this, but now CNBC is talking about it, so now I'm actually curious as to see where this goes. Well, I'm always curious to see where this goes, but I know I made the promise that we will do the majority of the news that we get off of Contemporary from green check verified sources. We will use their sources, the left sources, against them. So I don't necessarily try to go after Veritas right off I just try to look at what they're looking at and trying to show you through the bullshit that they're trying to feed you here. The financial markets are adjusting leadership to reflect another COVID-induced reopening cycle, said Jim Paulson. Leibt told group chief investment strategist that is, commodities are rising, bond yields are rising, cyclicals and small caps are outpacing, and technology and growth stocks in general are underperforming. On the positive side, Tesla rose 0.8% after the company said this weekend that it delivered 241,300 electric vehicles during the third quarter, well above analyst estimates. Merck shares gained 2.1%, following through on an 8% surge on Friday after the drug maker said its oral antiviral treatment developed by Ridgeback Biotherapeutics for COVID-19 reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by 50% for patients with mild or moderate cases. Southwest rose 1.3% after an upgrade to overweight from equal weight from Barclays. The same analyst upgraded the North American airline sector to positive from neutral. Yeah, the oral treatment's going to come out here and say, oh, hey, you can get on our planes if you take the oral treatment, and people are flocking to this. The MAGA people are going to get the oral treatment. And I hate to say this, but I think there was a level of correctness in what Olbermann had to say, and Britt pointed this out last night, over the fact that, yes, we should be afraid. I was coming out and saying that we shouldn't be afraid, that I wasn't afraid of it. I just don't want to get it because I don't like putting any sort of medicine in my body. Like I said, I barely take aspirin. But Britt did point out the fact that why shouldn't we be afraid? This is something brand new. Nobody knows anything about. Yes, this is also a brand new technology, so yes, we should be. But I do think that some of the, shall we say, more religious fans of the former president may also look at this and say, hey, we could take this little here pill, and it's going to pass through us here after we're done with the commie coup, and then we'll be just fine here, and it'll be out of our system. It won't be like that evil vaccine that'll be the mark of the beast everywhere we go. And I think there's going to be something to that. I think that's going to go somewhere, and I think Merck is going to make fucking bank off of this. Which, once again, when we look at the vaccines, and I would be not the least bit surprised if the government makes the Merck treatment free too. Go take your pill, man. If you can't take the vax, take the pill and just get it in your system. However we get it in your system here, come on, man. And I'm still not going to take that either. Call me crazy, but follow the money. Energy stocks rose amid an uptick in oil prices. Exxon gained 1.3%, and ConocoPhillips rallied 2%. We'll be talking a bit later about that too, because yeah, $81 a barrel is huge, and that's going to do great. Well, it's not going to do great things for us, but it's going to do big things as far as the economy goes. And whether they're good or bad, I guess we will have to wait and see. But that's what we're going to see coming up out of the financial sectors of this for the morning. Let's get into the big news of the day, and we are going to start with, once again, the budget showdown, because I have a feeling this is going to be the big news for the rest of the month. So, starting with Fox Business here. It's like we got a big chat party going on in here. 6 over on Twitch, 10 in total. You guys rock. McConnell to Biden. Tell Pelosi and Schumer to raise the debt ceiling on their own. From Tyler Olson. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Monday warned President Biden that Republicans won't help Democrats raise the debt ceiling and told the president he should convince members of Congress from his party to raise the debt ceiling along party lines. Since mid-July, Republicans have clearly stated that Democrats will need to raise the debt ceiling limit on their own. All year, your party has chosen to pursue staggering I'm sorry, this is McConnell voice. Since mid-July, Republicans have clearly stated Democrats will need to raise the debt limit on their own. All year, your party has chosen to pursue staggering transformational spending through unprecedented use of the party line reconciliation process. McConnell said, I have relayed this reality to your Democratic lieutenants for 2.5 months. McConnell added, Your Democratic majorities have not planned of their own to avoid default. I respectfully submit that it is time for you to engage directly with your congressional Democrats on this matter. Did he wear a tan suit by any chance when he said this? McConnell's letter came shortly before Biden was scheduled to make remarks of his own on the need to raise the debt ceiling. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the U.S. will default on its obligations later this month. She has aimed to convince Republicans to help Democrats raise the debt ceiling, which partially comes because they want to keep the budget reconciliation for the massive bloated fucking pork package. What they're doing? Come on, man! What they're doing today is so reckless and dangerous, in my opinion, Biden said to Republicans. The United States is a nation that pays its bills, and it always has. Yeah, that's why we're $28 trillion in debt. Because we pay our bills, don't worry. He added, raising the debt limit is about paying off your old debt. It has nothing to do with new spending to be considered. What? What? You have actually convinced the people that voted for you, honk honk, that this is about paying off your old debt? No! Stop spending! That's what you need to do! I don't understand why this is so hard. Quit your spending. McConnell's letter, however, notes that Biden voted against GOP efforts to raise the debt ceiling 3 times as a senator in 03, 04, and 06. Bipartisanship is not a light switch that Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer may flip on to borrow money and flip off to spend it, McConnell said. We have no list of demands for 2.5 months. We have simply warned that since your party wishes to govern alone, it must handle the debt limit alone as well. Good on McConnell, because that was the statement that we heard from the moment we heard, we did it, Joe. We did it. We're going to be president. We're both going to be president. That's what we heard right off of this is, okay, now we need to get Warnock. And what's the other asshole's name? I can't think of his name right now. I can see his face. I can't think of his name. Senators from Georgia. Ossoff. No, we got the presidency. Oh, we got the House by a narrow majority. Now we have to get Warnock and Ossoff in here so Kamala can... She can be the one who does the tiebreaker on every single piece of legislation out there. We'll end the filibuster if we get those two, and Kamala will be the one who makes everything happen in the Senate. That's what they've been trying to tell you right from the beginning, right from the start, right from the first time we heard this is, we need to get the Senate so we don't have to deal with Republicans at all. We need to get the Senate. Just please go down to Georgia. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does. Because we have to have the Senate. They made no secret from this that they were going to run from a one-party rule. It wasn't a secret. It was right out in the open. That's what they were going to do. But now, because they can't end the filibuster because of the 2 senators sitting up in their caucus that are getting whipped regularly, we'll talk about Sinema a little bit later on, now it's, we have to have bipartisan when we want to borrow money, but we're not going to have bipartisanship when we spend money. I don't like Mitch McConnell, but when he hits a dinger, when he hits one right on the head, I got to give him credit for that. And, I mean, the light switch analogy, that was dead on the money. Be bipartisan, because then we can go pay the bills and borrow the money. But we don't care if you won't get a single Republican on board for the reconciliation. But you know what? Let's be realistic here. Go ahead. Use your reconciliation. Use the reconciliation on the debt ceiling, and then try to get your big package passed without it. If it's that important to you to raise the debt ceiling, then use it on that. That's what I have to say to that. From The Hill. The Hill's 12:30 report. Schumer shortens the debt ceiling deadline, from Kate Martell. I think this is just a transcript of what happened here on the show. Talk of the morning. Via The Hill's Jordan Kearney, in a letter to Democrat Senate Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer, said the Congress has to raise the debt ceiling by the end of this week, particularly ambitious timeline given the lack of movement. Wait, I thought we had until October 18th. We do, but Schumer is arguing that it can't be a buzzer beater. Schumer wrote, "We do not have the luxury of waiting until October 18th, as it's our responsibility to reassure the world that the United States meets our obligations in a timely fashion and that the full faith and credit of the United States should never be in question. The consequences of even approaching the X date could be disastrous for the economy and devastating to the American families." 2 weeks. Tick, tick, tick. Congress is heading towards a debt ceiling cliff with no clear plan for how to prevent the country from barreling over it and into a historic default. So, and they're moving it up here because, like I said, and what have we seen from all these massive omnibus spending packages? The stopgap, the continuing resolution. When does it happen? At the 11th hour. At usually 7 o'clock in the afternoon, when the president signs, 7 o'clock in the evening, I should say. 7 in the evening, on the day that the government is set to run out of money. It happens time and time and time again. And I've said, this is the same thing. I don't think, I wouldn't sign a bill that raises the debt ceiling if I was the president. These are the parameters you have, work within them. If I was president, I would not sign that bill. If they took me that bill, no matter what situation we were in, I would send that bill back to them and tell them to shove it up their ass. But that's not really what people like Joe Biden do. But it's the same thing with the omnibus. If I were ever to become president, for whatever reason, I would give an address. I would go to the press pool every day and fuck with those people because they're assholes. But I would go to the press pool every day, and the first thing I would do when I opened, I would say, all right, guys, the first thing I need the American people to know is that we have 63 days until the government runs out of money. So those of you who are federal workers, and I actually don't know if I would go to the press pool even. I would probably do it like this, on a YouTube or a Twitch or a DLive channel. Can you imagine the liberal heads exploding if I went and did this on DLive as the president? It's a Nazi site! Oh my god! He can't go to YouTube! He wants to go to the Nazi site! But I think DLive actually has shed that image of themselves. I don't think DLive has the servers to handle a presidential address, to be completely honest. But, start up the Restream account and go in here and tell you. That would be the first part of the address every day. My fellow Americans, we have 63 days until the government runs out of money. Federal workers, make every situation you can as best you can, because I'm not going to sign anything that is not a budget. Congress needs to bring me a balanced budget, or they're going to have a government shutdown. And this is going to affect you personally. Instead of waiting until it's 1 week. I don't think they even go to 3 weeks before the government runs out of money. We have 1 week left before it's gone. We have 1 week out here. And, like I said, we've been talking about the debt ceiling thing since August. Because they've been trying to beat this down. We'll talk about that in just a second too. But yeah, they're trying to beat this into submission on the Republican leadership, mostly onto Mitch McConnell. Looking in at CNN, talking about that here for a second. Democrats attempt the near impossible, shaming Mitch McConnell. Analysis, op-ed, by Stephen Collinson. Democrats are trying something that almost never works, shaming Mitch McConnell into doing the right thing by citing a national interest, historical precedent, and governing norms. As the nation hurtles towards a financial catastrophe this month, President Biden is heaping pressure on the Republican Senate Minority Leader to share the burden of raising the federal borrowing limit. This accounting maneuver is normally bipartisan custom, but McConnell is refusing to help the evil turtle, even though the U.S. took on huge debts run up under Trump administration. I think, quite frankly, it's hypocritical, dangerous, and disgraceful, man. Come on, Biden said at the White House on Monday, adding that he couldn't guarantee the U.S. wouldn't default on its debt and throw the global economy into chaos. His dire remarks took the showdown to another level, and he helped knock a nearly full percentage point off the Dow Jones Industrial Average on a rocky day. But Democrats would be wise not to confuse McConnell with someone who cares about such pressure, or might be embarrassed into folding his cards, because his current stance conflicts with past positions. The majority doesn't need our votes, McConnell said on Monday. I suggest that our colleagues get moving, he added, further cementing his reputation for granite-like immovability once he has settled on a political strategy. Technically, McConnell may be correct. In the last resort, Democrats could use a time-consuming, complicated maneuver known as reconciliation to extend the government's borrowing authority. But the Kentuckians' actions has likely set yet another brutal precedent that will further polarize the business of governance and make a vital task of maintaining a stable economy even more politicized and dysfunctional in years to come. It's interesting here. I mean, if you come back down here halfway through the article, you know, we go into the beginning here, and all that Collinson does is, McConnell is evil, McConnell is bad, McConnell is doing bad things going on here, and we need to get rid of McConnell. We might need to take him out in the streets and tar and feather him because he's such a bad thing. But right down here, McConnell's approach works. McConnell's critics often argue that he's compromising Senate custom, the Constitution, or American national interest for his own naked partisan ends, but don't expect such claims to move him. After all, his approach built a generational conservative majority in the Supreme Court and made him one of the most dominant political figures in decades in Washington. The kind of rigid resistance to political heat McConnell is displaying on the current showdown recalls his stubborn persistence in depriving ex-President Barack Obama a chance to fill an open Supreme Court seat in 2016. As Obama complained that historically it has not been viewed as a question that Supreme Court nominees would get a vote, then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell refused to grant his pick, Merrick Garland, even a hearing, claiming a custom that constitutional requirements governing Supreme Court picks were suspended in the final year of the administration. Yeah, I wish he wouldn't have worded it like that. I really wish he would have worded it just as, your party wouldn't give it to us under Harry Reid when it was just judicial nominees, so you're not getting your Supreme Court pick. Because that would have thrown the ball right back into their court. And yes, Harry Reid did say that. Leftoids will try to forget that and rewrite history and say that, no, we worked with George W. Bush back then. No, they fucking did it. Harry Reid came out and made the statement that no Bush judicial picks were going to get a hearing in the last 2 years of Bush's presidency, which is, I mean, ironically not a bad thing. And that if he does, for whatever reason, get a Supreme Court pick while Reid was Majority Leader of the Senate, that person wasn't getting a hearing either. But see, the leftoids have forgotten about that. Most of them weren't old enough to vote during the Bush years. All they remember is, well, you guys, it's all about me, and I'm gonna wear this tan suit, and I'm gonna give you hope and change. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm the greatest president in the world. I can have my birthday party because I will keep everybody safe. But yeah, you can't go with your grandma because your grandma she might be a Republican and she might not be vaccinated. So you can't go there. It's just the judicial nominees didn't get as much media attention as a Supreme Court pick. Because every time there's a Supreme Court pick, it's Roe! No! So that's what they're trying to do at this point, just trying to paint him as the demon. And I don't like McConnell. I don't care for him, but I mean, he's doing things so. And I do love this idea of, well, you raised the debt ceiling 3 times under President Trump, and even suspended it at the end so you could spend limitless money on everything that you wanted. Yeah, it wasn't right then either. It fucking blew then. And I warned against that, by the way. Under the pinko fucking pox, when people started coming back and talking about, well, we have to go and spend all this money here. And, okay, it's going to go to the national debt. But we've got to come back and we have to spend all this money. Okay, it's going to go into the national debt. And we're going to have this argument again about the national debt in a couple of years. I warned about that. Some of you guys were in the audience when I warned about that. But that's what we see coming back off of that. Let's grab one from the New York Post. Ban Marjorie Taylor Greene from the January 6th investigation committee. She doesn't have any committee assignments. What are we banning her from? By the way, I have to go check and see if my ad blocker is still on, because I'm getting an awful lot of ads lately. Florida drama teacher accused of having sex with 14-year-old student in her car. Wasn't that how Riverdale started? I mean, are we going to see a completely fucking jacked KJ Apa if I open that article? Let's see. This is from Kelly Pattison. Days after he failed to gain enough support in his own party to approve 2 crucial pieces of his agenda, President Biden on Monday insisted that he's doing all he can as he blamed fellow Democrats and the Senate Republican leaders for his legislative troubles. Following a White House address where he urged Senate Minority Leader to set aside filibuster on raising the debt limit, admitting to reporters afterwards that he can't guarantee the U.S. won't hit the debt ceiling, Biden was pressed on why he was unable to get key members of the Democratic Party on board with this infrastructure and social spending agenda last week. I've been close to a deal with 99% of my party. 2 people, he said, appearing to reference Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, who have both vowed to vote against Biden's $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package at its current price tag. That's still underway, man. Come on. I don't think there's been a president who's been able to close deals that's been in a position where he only has 50 votes in the Senate and a bare majority in the House, Biden griped, despite heading into Friday's visit to House of Representatives, knowing he needed to move those 2 senators to forge a deal. It's a process, man. Come on. The president was pushed further and specifically asked if he was putting the blame squarely on 2 U.S. senators for his inability to close the deal. Look, Pat, I need 50 votes in the Senate. I have 48, Biden replied. Last Thursday, the House was set to vote on a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package. However, that vote was delayed after Democrats were unable to garner votes to pass it. So they won't even bring it to the fucking floor. The back and forth stemmed from a disagreement between progressives and moderates over the budget reconciliation. Progressives vowed to tank the infrastructure bill if the massive reconciliation bill wasn't passed first, while moderates, specifically Manchin and Sinema, refused to sign off on the $3.5 trillion price tag. Biden traveled to Capitol Hill on Friday to address the Democratic caucus, telling members that the bipartisan infrastructure bill would not proceed until Democrats reach an agreement on the larger social spending bill. While Manchin has offered a top line of $1.5 trillion for the spending bill, Sinema's top line remains unknown. Both have met with Biden repeatedly amid negotiations. Biden was pressed on what Sinema's top line would be on Monday, but he declined to give out a number publicly. I'm telling you this because he doesn't fucking have one. The president was also asked what size he personally thinks the reconciliation package should be, to which Biden has said he already, I laid out what I thought it should be, and it's not going to be that. It's going to be less. Both the Build Back Better piece as well as the infrastructure piece are things that I wrote. It's me, man, come on. Taking a lesson from Obama, of course. These didn't come from, God love him, Bernie Sanders or AOC. What's that chick's name? Is it AOS? AOC. Oh, okay. Bernie Sanders or AOC or anyone else. I wrote them. Senator Bernie Sanders, I, Vermont, not D, Vermont, correction on the New York Post, and the Honorable and Venerable Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D. Twitch, have both supported the progressive movements hold up the infrastructure bill to pass the budget reconciliation. On Sunday, the Honorable and Venerable Representative said that while progressives have the advantage right now, negotiations with moderates could come down to what programs are in the bill when it comes to cutting costs. That's her. So here's what I think the problem is, and it's when we talk about top-line numbers. There's a lot that's hidden in the discussion. And so the reason why this conversation should be about numbers, Poppy, but it should be about what substantive programs are willing to be excluded, she said on CBS News' Face the Nation. But those are conversations that we need to have, because the thing is, Washington math is notoriously funny. And I can do Washington math, but I can't do regular math, okay, Poppy? And you can make 3 trillion into 2 trillion. And you can make 3 trillion bill that helps fewer people. And so that's why we really need to talk about the substance of this, Ocasio-Cortez, D. Twitch said. The reconciliation package is not yet finalized. Biden continues to negotiate with Manchin and Sinema to try and salvage as much of this broad spending plan as he can, including provisions to lower costs of childcare, higher education, prescription drugs, healthcare, and housing, plus push green agenda items. In recent weeks, and this is the best part because we're begging for a suspension of the debt ceiling. In recent weeks, the Biden admin has been slammed for claiming the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package cost $0. No, both of these bills are going on to national debt, especially given the fact that under unemployment for the entire year of 2020 almost, and well into 2021 as well, we see massive upticks of unemployment, especially expanded unemployment benefits for people. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't see it. But given the statistics that we saw over the last year and a half, I think those tax receipts are, those are going to be a little bit paltry this year. I think they're going to be much more paltry than they're expecting off of this. I think that's going to wind up being a massive problem when it comes to more budgets. But, you know, the news isn't going to cover that because they don't dare tell you how much money you're paying into the federal government. They have to, I mean, a lot of these people act on the idea that they have to, you know, they want people to not even see the taxes that they pay. Do you know how much you paid in taxes last year? That's an honest question to the majority of people out there. And I'm not going to look down at you. You don't, because the vast majority of this country doesn't look at the number that they pay in. You can go get it right off the IRS website if you make the account, which I don't recommend doing, but I did because I had to go and pay a small balance. You can go see what your actual tax contribution was, but most people don't know what it is because what do? Usually? It's tax withholding. It comes out of your paycheck and goes into a trust account because people trust the government. It goes into a trust account, and then people never see the top line number. They see what the refund is, or they see what little bit it is that they have to go back and pay in. And that's what the mainstream media wants you to continue to do. So you don't see how bad you're getting fucked by the upper 1%. From the Hill. Shifting gears here, moving up off the finance stuff. Let's talk about St. George. George Floyd statue vandalized in New York City's Union Square 2 days after unveiling. From Michael Schnell. A statue of St. George of Floyd, hallowed be his name, in New York City's Union Square was vandalized on Sunday, 2 days after it was first unveiled as part of the exhibition that also features busts of John Lewis and, say her name, Breonna Taylor. A man was captured on video footage Sunday hurling paint at a bust of Floyd at around 10 a.m. before leaving the scene, according to the Associated Press, citing police. The statues of Taylor and Lewis were reportedly left unharmed. Police have not yet released the video of the incident. They actually have, and we'll look at that in just a second. New York Governor Kathy Hochul wrote in a tweet on Monday that she has directed the New York State Police's Hate Crime Task Force to provide any assistance authorities may need in their investigation that is looking for the perpetrator behind the vandalism. Well, all they have to do is look through the bank records and figure out the person that they hired for it. Kathy Hochul tweets out, "This act of cowardice and hate is reprehensible. Let me invoke God one more time and call you my apostles in going to try to bring this person to justice. Because you will be my apostles. I've directed New York State Police Hate Crime Task Force to provide any assistance in the investigation to find the perpetrator and hold them accountable." The exhibition, dubbed See Injustice, opened to the public on Friday. The three statues, almost 6 feet tall and weighing approximately 1,000 pounds, are made of 200 layers of African mahogany plywood that is coated with bronze metallic paint, according to the New York Times, a former newspaper. The display, made by artist Chris Carnabucci, 57, was inspired by the events that took place in 2020, according to the Confront Art, an organization that links artists with social justice causes to create public art. Racial injustice protests over the last year in response to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, who were both killed at the hands of police. Yeah, that's not a disingenuous statement at all. Lewis, a civil rights activist who was injured by police during the 65 Bloody Sunday protests in Alabama, died in July of last year. Confront Art, in a statement, said the series aims to honor the lies and ongoing messages through art tying together the three iconic people. The group also said the exhibition was installed in Union Square because the area has historically protected the right to free speech and demonstration. Unless your free speech involves throwing paint on a statue, because then we will get the police after you. But I can also come out here and we can see the video. Possibly. Looks like I might actually have to scroll down for this one again. Because I had it actually queued up where it was supposed to be. Oh, this is more tweets, isn't it? Yep, show more replies. I can go back and do this again. I know the video's in here. Yeah. The African God. No cameras, as if history taught us nothing. And Nate from Southside Minneapolis says there were cameras. The guy that did it was caught on camera, which we can see here. Conveniently. And he stands right in front of the camera as well. I suppose this is surveillance, so this actually probably doesn't have any sound. Right in front of people, too. See, and this is the thing that bothers me about this. Now, if this happened in the middle of Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, something like that, especially Kentucky, because that actually would have involved Breonna Taylor herself. But if this had happened in a more red area, I would actually not be that surprised by this. In fact, I would consider the fact that there would probably be people out there who were specifically going out to do this. There would probably be people advising not to put the statue there because there would be the possibility of vandalism or anything else that goes with this if this was in a more red place. But this is in the middle, and our friend Quest Fanning over on the Twitch side can probably tell us just a little bit more of the demographic of the area that we are seeing coming out of this place. But this is middle of New York City, if I understand my geography correctly. And this is not exactly an area that I would say a Republican would feel comfortable in. I would think maybe more upstate. And yes, there's camera out there of this person out here who's skateboarding up and throwing the paint. I gotta say, as much as I would believe that there would be people wearing the red hat who would come out and do this, I gotta say, I believe this one would be a hoax. I believe this one would be an absolute hoax. Even though it's on camera, I still look at this and I think hoax. That's the first thing I think when I see this. But I guess they'll make their investigation and they'll find out what comes out of it. Let's talk about Kyrsten Sinema, because it wasn't as if the bathroom thing was enough there, but now we're also sitting in a position where she's getting confronted in the airport. Sinema confronted in airport and plane about spending bill, Green New Deal, and DACA, which I think you should have the ability. I stand probably against a lot of people who are defending Sinema on this one. I think you should have the ability to confront your politicians in a public place. And I don't consider the bathroom, by the way, a public place. I don't think you should have the ability to confront your politicians at their home or in the bathroom. But the airport, that is a public place, and you should be able to do that. That is something you should be able to do, because that's how you air your grievances to them. Now, you should not be violent if you're doing this. There shouldn't be a mob or anything else like that. But if you look in there, and like if I was standing in the middle of Janesville and I saw Brian Style, which is highly unlikely because he doesn't come back to Janesville or his district ever. But let's just say I'm going down there one day and I see Brian Style standing in the middle of the Piggly Wiggly. I say, hey Brian, we got to talk about, and he hasn't really authored any meaningful legislation, so we'll just use it for instance off of this. Oh, hey, that farm bill that you signed, we got to talk about this, dude. We got to have a conversation. And it's just me. That's an acceptable way to do this. But realistically, there's a reason that Brian Style doesn't come back to his constituency. And when he does, he uses Instacart to go and get his stuff because, I mean, I wouldn't want to be caught out, especially in a city, as a congressperson, as a Republican congressperson. I wouldn't want to be caught out like that. But that's how you do that. I mean, you see somebody in the airport and say, hey, Kyrsten, can you explain to me the reasoning behind this? And you be calm and collected, but that's not what these people do. But no, the bathroom is not. That is not a place to air your grievances. That is a private area where you are at your most vulnerable. That is not the place to do that. In fact, anybody who would do that, I consider to be among the most despicable people out there. You're literally being caught with your pants down. Let's talk a bit about this and what's going on here. From John Brown. Senator Kyrsten Sinema was confronted at an airport and on an airplane by people who demanded to know what she's refusing to support a pathway to citizenship or vote for President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. In video that emerged on Monday, Sinema was approached by Green New Deal Network Chief of Staff Kunor Ocha, a small group of others at Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. Hi, Senator Sinema. I want to ask if you can explain to the American people what you're planning on cutting from Biden's Build Back Better plan, Oja asked while Sinema attempted to have a phone conversation. We could actually watch this, it looks like. drop the music for a second.
Hi, Senator Sinema. I want to ask if you can explain to the American people what you're planning on cutting from Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Do you want to cut climate priorities? Is it elder care that you want to cut, or is it child care?
Senator, please, we are asking for your help. Senator, we need
What are
you.
the priorities?
I'm going to continue like that.
I'm just trying to get an explanation for the American
Senator, you can do the right thing.
All I want to know is what the specific
Senator Sinema, I just work during your needle. Senator Sinema, my hometown is surrounded by a refinery. Are you going to give these people air to breathe?
And I mean, this strategy here that we're watching, I'm on the fence about, because I mean, anywhere you do, especially with somebody with this high profile Sinema, is you're going to draw a crowd, and you're going to draw a crowd of progressives together who may not have even come into this area together. They might not have even come together for this. But they see that one person is confronting the good senator, so now the other people have to come in and join them. But this does seem intimidating, and I don't know if, like, the person walking the bike, I think that might be a cop or a patrol officer for the airport, which I don't understand why he's riding a bike indoors, but far be it for me to try to explain that. And I don't know if, like, the dude in the vest is with them or not either, or what this does seem a little bit intimidating off of this. Now, as far as Sinema goes, if it's one or two people, I really would. This is a hard part, because these people I know are disingenuous about this, but you know, you should have access. This is part of the reason that I talk about local politics so much, is that you should have access to the people who are controlling your life. Now, that being said, from Washington, D.C., I don't know if these people are her constituents or not. I don't know if she specifically represents these people, which as a senator she shouldn't be. She should be representing the interests of the state, but thank the 16th Amendment. I think it's the 16th. Yeah, the 16th Amendment. Thank the 16th Amendment for that. But yes, you should have access to the people that represent you. While Sinema was on the plane, a consideration for deferred action of childhood arrivals, recipient named Karina went up to the senator and asked her if she would commit a pathway to citizenship for immigrants. Let's watch that one.
Senator, hello, how are you? You good? Sorry, I'm Karina. I don't know if you remember me. I just want to know if you can commit, as my senator, if you can commit to passing a reconciliation that could provide a pathway to citizenship for immigrants. We have been waiting for this for too long. I just need to know if you can commit to passing a budget reconciliation that would include immigration.
And once again, I do need to point out the fact that the parliamentarian told the Democrats in the reconciliation to take that pathway to citizenship and shove it up their ass. They can't do that in a budget reconciliation. I mean, the parliamentarian is cutting shit left and right out of this thing. Left and fucking right.
And citizenship for people to be protected, like me and many others. Can you commit to that, Senator? I'm just asking a simple question. I'm being vulnerable right now to you. My dad passed away. I know, but my dad passed away. My dad passed away last year, and he didn't get to reunite with my family. I don't want to disturb you, but at the same time, I just want to see if I can get a commitment from you, Senator. This is my life and the life of millions in the line. I just need to hear from you. Can we get a commitment from you to get a pathway to citizenship through the budget reconciliation to protect me and millions like me? Can I get a commitment from you?
And I don't think Sinema herself is handling this the proper way either. I don't. I'm going to come right out and say that. I don't think she's handling this the right way. To just come back and ignore the people. And once again, I don't know if Karina is... Well, Karina can't vote for her anyway, but, you know, if she's even represented by the state of Arizona. In any capacity that she has. So, I mean, to just come out and ignore somebody, I don't agree with that either. I don't think that's the right way to approach this. Now, if, say, I was a senator, not that these people would come up and talk to me anyway, because if I did run for somewhere, I would do it with an R next to my name. But if I was confronted like this and somebody came up to me on the airplane and said, hey, Senator, well, redacted, you guys don't know my last name. Senator, if I did this, could you commit to a pathway to citizenship? I said, I can't commit to that because we need to see what the budgetary ends of this. We need to see what the House is going to do with this. I cannot commit to anything here. And I am in favor, by the way, and you guys know this from all my old DACA videos, I'm in favor of a pathway to citizenship. I think that's a good idea, especially given the fact that these people have contributed to our society for so long. I don't think it should be an easy pathway to citizenship, but I am actually in favor of pathway to citizenship on that. Not necessarily for the people who just jumped the border yesterday, but the people who've been here since they were kids and are now the same age as me. I'm in favor of at least having that discussion. And possibly doing it. Because, I mean, what else are some of these people going to do? They paid taxes, and they didn't get representation because they paid taxes. I don't think that's right. No taxation without representation is the way that I see this. And I'm willing to have the conversation as to why, but no, Sinema's not handling this the right way either. All right, let's raise the music back up here. Let's keep going. From the Hill. Attacks on Sinema turn increasingly personal. From Julia Manchester. Attacks on Senator Kyrsten Sinema are becoming increasingly personal as she faces blowback for refusing to support the massive $3.5 trillion budget that progressives are demanding pass alongside the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal. On Sunday, a video surfaced of protesters following Sinema out into a bathroom at Arizona State University, where one activist stood outside of the stall the senator was in. The incident prompted Sinema to issue a statement saying that the behavior was not a legitimate protest. It wasn't. In fact, the lady on the plane, although the vulnerability of the packed plane I do consider to be a problem there, but the lady on the plane had a more legitimate protest than this whining, crying people in the bathroom. It is unacceptable for activist organizations to instruct their members to jeopardize themselves by engaging in unlawful activities such as gaining entry to a closed university building, disrupting learning environments, and filming students in a classroom, she said. Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer told reporters on Monday that while he supports the right to a peaceful protest, it was over the line for protesters to follow Sinema into the bathroom and record her. Mark Kelly also defended Sinema on Monday, condemning the actions of the protesters in a tweet. Senator Sinema works hard on the behalf of Arizonans every day, and this is not the way to handle disagreements, Kelly said. These actions were completely inappropriate. The House Plant Chief, on the other hand, said at a press conference he did not think the actions of the protesters were appropriate, but added, come on, man, it happens to everybody. The only people it doesn't happen to are the people that have Secret Service standing around. That's part of the process, man. Come on. Over the weekend, the Sunrise Movement and other progressive groups demonstrated outside of a private fundraiser for Sinema on Saturday in Phoenix, demanding that she support the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package, along with provisions to combat climate change. Sinema was also the subject of a scathing Saturday Night Live intro in which she was portrayed by Cicely Strong, okay, I can see that, as unserious and out of touch. I want no roads, said Strong Sinema. Why? Said James Austin Johnson, playing President Biden. Chaos, Strong Sinema replied. So yeah, and I mean, it's Saturday Night Live, so they have entered themselves into the political fray, but they did that a while ago. I mean, I look back at Norm Macdonald comedy and a best of Norm Macdonald video, and I mean, what's he best known for out of the 90s? OJ jokes and Clinton jokes. He's best known for those. So I mean, it's not new for Saturday Night Live to go after major political figures. But I mean, at least when Norm did it, it was intelligent to some degree. There was actually some thought behind it, instead of, ha ha ha, I don't want Rose because I want chaos. And we take the tweet from Literally Your Mom, great follow over on Twitter, by the way. I'm amazed that people actually think what happened in the bathroom is okay. Reading the quoted tweet here, Max Burns on a thread starts out, he's quote tweeting Jonathan Chait, who says, by the way, what percentage of people defending protesters stalking cinema into a bathroom would defend it if it was right-wing protesters doing the same to AOC Biscuit? I'll go with, pulls out calculator, punches in some numbers, 0. And Max Burns, which I don't know why either of these people are blue-checked. John Chait, I guess, is a writer for the New York Magazine, and Max Burns is a Democratic strategist and founder of the Third Degree Strategies, and writer at the Daily Beast and NBC News. Big shocker there. Did you try to talking to a single person to validate this idea, or do you just think it up and hit tweet? But then he goes on, and this is the thing. People are in such a rush to make a thought experiment out of the cinema bathroom incident that they forget it's an actual thing that actually happened because of circumstances specific to cinema. You know why it wouldn't happen to AOC? Because her constituents feel heard. And amazingly, a bunch of progressives following Kyrsten Sinema into a bathroom has become a no true Scotsman argument. Amazing. Amazing how that happens. Alright, let's shift gears again. Let's talk about Andy Yang from the New York Post. Andrew Yang officially leaves Democrats, becomes an independent, from Mark Moore. Failed candidate for president and New York City mayor, Andrew Yang said on Monday that he has officially switched his political registration from Democrat to independent, hoping to be able to be even more honest about both the system and the people in it. Yang, who first attracted attention by advocating for a universal basic income, socialism, of $1,000 a month for all Americans, said he has been a Democrat his entire adult life. Well, that's part of the problem. And still has friends and colleagues in the party. And yet, I'm confident that no longer being a Democrat is the right thing, he wrote in a statement released on his Twitter page, which we'll look at that in just a second. Please keep in mind, I'm not suggesting that you also change your voter registration to independent, as I've done. Doing so could just disenfranchise if you live in the 83% of the country that is very blue or very red. For this reason, I consider either not making this change or not talking about it, he said. Yang, who has a book coming out, there it is. He has a book coming out on Tuesday called Forward, Notes on the Future of the Democracy, said he feels he'll be able to make a greater impact by leaving the Democratic Party. Let's check out his statement. Andrew Yang, why I'm leaving the Democrat Party. We'll read a little bit of this. Breaking up with the Democratic Party. I changed my voting registration from Democrat to Independent today. It was a strongly emotional experience, dude. If you're crying because you're changing your voting registration, you're doing something wrong. I registered as a Democrat back in 1995 when I was 20 years old and voted for Bill Clinton's re-election. It was a no-brainer for me. I went to college that was very liberal. I lived in New York City. Everyone around me was a Democrat. Bill Clinton versus Bob Dole. Clinton was one of the youngest presidents that was ever elected when he was elected and seemed more in tune to me as a 20-year-old. Keep in mind, I grew up as the son of immigrants, and my family did not talk about politics at all growing up. I still have no idea how or even if my parents voted. I have vague recollection of my mom watching a debate and saying, I don't like him, but I can't remember if she was referring to. I don't remember, she doesn't remember either. Throughout my 20s, I remained a staunch Democrat, though like many others, I was drawn primarily to national races. I co-hosted a small fundraiser for John Kerry's campaign at a bar when I was 29. I think we raised maybe $3,000. I thrilled to Barack Obama's victory in 2008 and to a lesser extent to his re-election in 2012. Around this time, I was invited to the White House to receive recognition by the Obama White House as both a champion of change and a presidential ambassador of global entrepreneurship, as the founder of a nonprofit venture for America that helped create hundreds of jobs in the Midwest and South. Bringing Evelyn to meet the president was a lot of fun. In 2016, I donated to Bernie Sanders' campaign. Everything he said struck me as true, but then voted for Hillary Clinton against Trump. When Trump won, I was surprised and took it as a red flag and called action. So, it's evil Trump, so I have to go run for president, is what this boils down to. Awesome. Thank you, Andrew Yang. From KKTV 11 News. Biden lifts abortion referral ban on family planning clinics. From the Associated Press. The Biden admin on Monday reversed a ban on abortion referrals by family planning clinics, lifting a Trump-era restriction as the political and legal battles over abortion grew sharper from Texas and the U.S. Supreme Court. HHS said the new regulation will restore the federal family planning program to the way what ran under the Obama admin. Poorly, it's a government program. When clinics were able to refer women seeking abortions to a provider, the goal is to strengthen and restore services, said HHS Secretary Javier Becerra. Groups representing the clinics said they hope the Biden admin will lead some 1,300 local facilities that left in protest over Trump's policies to return, helping stabilize a long-standing program shaken by the coronavirus pandemic on top of ideological battles. I've heard almost everywhere in the country people have made the decision that conditions will be good for them to return to the program, Claire Coleman, president of the umbrella group National Family Planning and Reproductive Health Associates, said in an interview, "My sense is that people are waiting for the rule." Planned Parenthood, the biggest service provider, said on Twitter that health centers look forward to returning, but the group criticized part of the Biden admin's rule that allows individual clinicians who object to the abortion not to provide referrals. The administration said that's in accordance with applicable federal law. Known as Title X, the taxpayer-funded program makes available more than $250 million a year to clinics that provide birth control and basic health care services to mainly low-income women, many of them from minority communities. Under the former president, Donald Trump, clinics were barred from referring patients for abortions, prompting a mass exit by service providers affiliated with Planned Parenthood, as well as several states and other independent organizations. So, see, a part of the problem that I have with this is having federal government involvement with it. As usual, I think the government sucks at everything, and we're coming back off of this. I'm also curious as to why women who are in the possibility of having an abortion are going to a doctor that doesn't want to refer them for an abortion. I don't get that. That seems like a free market solution of don't give your money to doctors that don't want to have you don't want to provide you a referral to abortion. That's a problem that would probably solve itself pretty quickly and get more people down onto their ideological lines. As far as this goes, though, why does the federal government even have to be involved? Let the states deal with this. Oh, because of Roe, of course. Of course, it's always because of Roe. So, that's what we're coming out of this. And, of course, I mean, this is going to be the big thing coming back out of this. Let's listen to the red-haired bobblehead for a second. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki just told reporters that President Biden opposes the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment that saved nearly 2.5 million lives from abortion. Let's have a listen to what that sounded like.
Senator Manchin has said that he wants to see the Hyde Amendment included in the reconciliation bill. Congressman Jai Paul and others are opposed to that. Where does the president stand on inclusion of the Hyde Amendment in the reconciliation bill?
Well, I'm not going to negotiate the package from here, but as you know, the president opposes the Hyde Amendment. That has not changed.
Senator Manchin...
Wasn't he in favor of the Hyde Amendment when he was in the Senate? I thought that he was. I don't know. I guess we'll figure out what the fight is over that. Let's grab one from the Blaze. Here's one you won't hear from mainstream media sources. GOP lawmakers seek answers on hundreds of Afghan refugees walking off U.S. bases. From Chris Pandolfo. Lawmakers are seeking answers from the Biden admin over a report revealed that hundreds of Afghan refugees are leaving U.S. military bases before going through the resettlement program. Joni Ernst and 15 other Senate Republicans sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, raising concerns over gaps in security and criminal vetting for the approximately 65,000 refugees who were flown out of Afghanistan to the U.S. after the Taliban took control of the country. The Biden admin's security vetting procedures to clear Afghans entering the country remain unclear. There are none. And incomplete. And unless change, are insufficient to preserve the safety of American homeland, the senators wrote. They're evil and they're brown, and they might make us unsafe. You're really going with that direction, aren't you, GOP senators? As a consequence of the Biden admin's hasty and chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan in August, thousands of refugees were allowed into the United States under a temporary status called humanitarian parole. These refugees were first relocated to military bases in the U.S., where they were supposed to be connected with resettlement services to begin a new life in America. However, Reuters reported Friday that hundreds of Afghan refugees are walking off U.S. bases before completing the voluntary resettlement process. At least 700 independent departures have been recorded by officials while these individuals are not violating any law and are free to leave the base, the senators wrote to the Biden admin with their concerns over security. They are requesting that the Biden admin temporarily pause the refugee resettlement, except for fully vetted Afghans holding special immigration visas, and pause resettlement of Afghans who already paroled into the U.S. until the Defense Department Inspector General completes a review of the vetting process. I mean, that's not exactly the worst idea in the world. And also, realistically, I mean, when you look into some of this stuff too, I still say that the best place to do the vetting and to do the refugee resettlement would have been Qatar. A climate that they're used to, a culture that they're used to, a place that they're used to, and a place that's close enough to probably other family members in Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, places like that, where they could still go back over and not have to travel all the way across the world to the other side of the world to go visit family and such. But no, bring them in here quick as possible. Get them all in here. Everybody in. Let's go. From Insider. Kabul faces blackouts because the Taliban stopped paying the bills. The Taliban stopped paying for foreign companies that generate most of Afghanistan's electricity, not electrical. From Mia Jankowicz. Afghanistan's capital is facing a winter of blackouts, the Wall Street Journal reported. The outlet said the city's supply is at risk because the Taliban government stopped paying the foreign companies that supply most of the electricity. Hey, I hear Iran has nuclear power. They could just pipe some of that over there. The consequences would be countrywide, but especially in Kabul. Daoud Nourzai, the former chief executive of Afghan's power company, told the paper. There will be blackout and it would bring Afghanistan back into the dark ages when we're not going to go there right now. When it comes to power and telecommunications, he said. About 70% of Afghanistan's power supply comes from outside the country, according to the DC-based think tank, the Caspian Policy Center. The capital supply comes almost entirely from abroad, the Wall Street Journal reported. When the Taliban seized control of the country in August, they took power over DABS and inherited its debt, according to the Wall Street Journal. DABS needs about $90 million to address its liabilities. Safiullah Ahmadzai told the Wall Street Journal these include debts to power suppliers in neighboring Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Who's this Stan dude? A Taliban cleric replaced Ahmadzai as DABS CEO on Sunday, the paper reported. As of 2020, DABS paid up to $280 million per year for imported power, according to Afghan news outlet Tolo News. But the Taliban has so far refused to allow DABS to use $40 million on its accounts to pay off its creditors, Ahmadzai told the Wall Street Journal. Our neighboring states now have the right to cut our power under contract. Afghan government receipts have slowed to a trickle as the country's economy flounders, making it difficult for families to pay their DABS bill, the paper reported. Afghanistan has long been troubled by fluctuating power supplies, with residents of Kabul complaining in June of high bills and having only limited hours of service per day, Tolo News reported. With the Taliban now in full control, electricity supplies have temporarily increased, according to the Wall Street Journal. The militant group has ceased its attacks on power grids. A hiatus in industrial and government activity has seen the supply flow towards residential users, the paper reported. But if Afghanistan suppliers cut the power off, the country could face a crisis come winter, Nurzai told the paper. Does Afghanistan get cold in the winter? I don't know. I feel like it's far enough away from the equator that it does, so that's going to be something to watch. It's going to be something to see. I mean, they got oil. They got plenty of that. And they got poppy. So they got plenty of that too, but I do question the legality of holding the Taliban hostage to the contracts of the former government. You know, the one that folded up and just left as soon as they were given. I also have to wonder now how far into debt the old government was to all these other countries too. But I know, like, if I went off and rented a place and the previous tenant had $1,400 in previous electric bill, that's not something I would be responsible for. In spite of the fact that we're coming into the same residence, that's not something that I would personally be responsible for if I took over or picked up a lease in a place where the previous tenant had run that up. So holding the Taliban responsible for the previous Afghan government's bills, I'm not sure the international legality to this, the contracts or anything else that go along with that. I just know that it's going to be dark in Kabul. From Reuters, oil spikes with OPEC Plus set to stick to output increase. From Noah Browning, oil rose sharply to multi-year highs on Monday after Reuters reported that OPEC Plus would stick to its current output policy. The producer club will conform to their existing agreement and unleash a further 400,000 barrels per day in November, a source told Reuters. Brent crude was up $1.97 or 2.5% at $81.25 per barrel by 13:45 Mountain Time. It rose 1.5% last week for its fourth consecutive weekly gain and was back up to highs last seen in 2018. U.S. oil rose to $179 or 2.4% to $77.67 after gaining for the past 6 weeks, was at its highest since 2014. Oil prices have been driven higher by a rise in global demand and supply disruptions, pushing Brent last week above $80 a barrel to its highest in nearly 3 years. OPEC Plus, which groups the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, including Russia, has faced pressure from some countries to add back more barrels to the market to help lower prices as demand has recovered faster than expected in some parts of the world. OPEC agreed in July to boost output by 400,000 barrels per day each month until at least April 2022 to phase out 5.8 million barrels per day of existing production cuts. Ooh, the climate change progressives aren't going to like that very much, are they? 4 OPEC Plus sources told Reuters recently that producers were considering boosting output by more than that. The oil price rally has been fueled by an even bigger increase in gas prices that have spiked by 300% and are trading at about $200 a barrel in comparable terms, prompting switching to fuel oil and other crude products to generate electricity and for other industrial needs. And, I mean, that's part of the thing. And we look back at what happened last year. Now, a lot of the red hat people will run right out and tell you that it's, look at what President Trump did. Look what our Messiah and Savior did last year when he had gas down below 99 cents a gallon. Look how amazing that was. Look how amazing all that was. But a lot of that also had to do with the fact that nobody was traveling. A lot of us were on lockdown. A lot of hours in production cuts were even done so on essential businesses. There was a lot of that out there where people they felt the need that we didn't need as much fuel. Plus, it was also coming into summer, so it was warm, and people weren't heating their homes. So, I mean, there wasn't as much travel. I remember going down to D.C. and thinking there was going to be a lot more traffic on the road, and there wasn't. And even going down 95 on a weekday, except for when it was pouring down rain constantly, there was almost no traffic coming. There was still traffic in Florida, but for the most part, there was almost no traffic coming up on 95 between Washington and Orlando. Almost none. So that was driving it too. Now, if the Keystone XL was open again, I don't think we would still be seeing 99 cents per gallon gas unless OPEC went back and did something like this again, which they might actually have to do to go back and hold Britain up and hold Russia up during this winter, as both of them are experiencing cuts in supply lines as well. But even if they unless they open it up back huge like they did last summer, even with the Keystone pipeline there, I don't think we would see 89 cent a gallon gas anymore like we did last year. But I don't think we'd be at $3 either. I think we'd probably be at the low twos, high ones, low twos right now. Probably 185 to 215, somewhere in there. Because of these supply lines and the way that they're done, and the fact that the stuff coming out of the Keystone, we wouldn't have to transport. But there are other things going on in the gas world as well, from the Globe and Mail out of Canada. Canada invokes 1977 treaty with the U.S. in a bid to halt Line 5 closing, from Stephen Chase. We're not going to get through everything today, are we? We're going to try, but we're not going to get through everything. The Canadian government has invoked a 1977 treaty with the U.S. to trigger formal government-to-government negotiations over the fate of Line 5, a vital petroleum pipeline for Canada that faces the threat of a shutdown from the state of Michigan. The move escalates a dispute in which U.S. President Biden's admin has been reluctant to intervene. Last May, U.S. Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm, former governor of Michigan, by the way, told reporters that the White House has no plans to get involved, saying it would be up to the courts to settle. The Biden admin will no longer be able to duck this issue, Toronto international trade lawyer Lawrence Herman said on Monday. The development, which is the first time the Transit Pipeline Treaty has been invoked, follows a breakdown in a court-ordered mediation last month between Enbridge and Michigan, where Whitmer has ordered Line 5 to cease shipping petroleum across the bottom of the state's Straits of Mackinac waterway, citing the risk of spills. Ms. Whitmer, a Democrat and an ally of Mr. Biden, is up for re-election in 2022. Gordon Griffin, a former U.S. ambassador to Canada, now acting as legal counsel for the Canadian government, informed a federal U.S. judge in Michigan on Monday by letter that Canada has, through diplomatic channels, formally invoked Article 9 of the 1977 treaty to request negotiations. The agreement was drawn up at a time when Washington was concerned about ensuring that there would be no obstacles to shipping petroleum from Alaska to the lower 48. In a statement explaining this development, Foreign Affairs Minister Marc Garneau in Canada is firmly committed to ensuring energy and economic security. Mr. Griffin asked Janet Neff, the U.S. District Judge presiding over the Enbridge Michigan legal dispute to suspend court proceedings while formal negotiations between Canada and the U.S. take place. It is neither necessary nor proper for the court or any domestic court to make any determinations that could undermine, conflict, or interfere with the obligations and processes established in the treaty, he wrote in the letter. Now, it is to my understanding, and I talked to Nailbender about this, it is to my understanding that this is not even a pipeline that necessarily goes to supplying the U.S. with oil. I may be wrong on that, but that's the understanding that was explained to me. So this is just an oil pipeline that goes from Canada to Canada, but briefly dipping into the U.S. for ease of access. And that's what Whitmer is shutting down. And I don't think she has the right to do so. I think that does have to come from the White House if they do this, because they are the chief ambassador to another country, and Canada is another country. So I don't think she's got the place to shut this down, but now the government's going to get involved. Now the State Department's going to get involved, and we will possibly see a new treaty, or possibly see this oil company have to dig up their pipeline and go put it somewhere else. Really? Apparently Twitch is saying the show is no longer online. Let me refresh this and see if I got shut down, but it's showing for me on the monitor. With 134.41 session. Apparently. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Anyway, let's keep going. From the hills, changing America. Black woman accused of pretending to be Ku Klux Klan member because we live in a Dave Chappelle sketch. From Adam Barnes. A black woman was charged with making terroristic threats in letters to her neighbors in an Atlanta area community in which she claimed to be a member of the Ku Klux Klan and threatened to burn down their homes and kill them, authorities said in a statement. The Douglasville Police Department said in a statement 30-year-old Teresha Lucas was charged with 8 counts of making terroristic threats. Lucas, who allegedly described herself in the letters as a white male with a long beard from outside the community, began leaving racist messages in her neighbors' mailboxes in December, according to the department. The notes threatened to burn their houses down and kill them, and said that they didn't belong in the neighborhood, DPD Detective Nathan Schumacher said in the statement. The letter is using the N-word, talking about the KKK, hanging people, killing kids, killing whole families, and setting houses on fire. A person who received one of the notes told the local CBS station. Additional notes were discovered on February 17th, February 22nd, March 1st, and March 3rd. The final note was delivered September 6th after 6 months without a threatening message, yet Shoemaker said there were likely more messages than police uncovered. Before September, authorities said they had little evidence to pursue other than consistent wording and handwriting, but the evidence gathered on September 6th linked the letters to Lucas, and police were able to obtain a search warrant. Detectives found additional evidence during this search tying Lucas to the letters. Lucas is expected to turn herself in to authorities. This is the world we live in. The world is so hateful. It's so despicable that people have to make up a hate crime in order to show how hateful and despicable it is. They have to make up a hate crime in order to do this. From the Denver Gazette, LA homeless encampments to be cleared for maintenance. LA is temporarily closing a homeless encampment in the city's MacArthur Park to service neglected features in the area, leading residents to worry there may be demonstrations against removing people living in tents. Councilman Gil Cedillo confirmed Monday the closures would take place at the southern end of the park beginning October 15th and would last 10 weeks. Cedillo said the people living in the area, 164 already moved into housing provided by the city, while 45 remained. People camping in the northern half of the park were not affected. The reason for the closure is much needed deferred maintenance. According to Cedillo's office, we want to provide a safe, clean, and secure park for all people that come to MacArthur Park to play, relax, and enjoy this precious space, and live, you forgot live, that lies in the heart of our low-income neighborhood of Westlake, Cedillo said. I mean, which is all cool. It's kind of cool to come back out and say, hey, let's go clean something up here. I mean, I know we have homeless people living here, but let's go clean something up here so our constituents, whether homeless or not, have a nice place to go. But the complication comes, reading from The Blaze, and Quest Fanning called it, LA is trying to clear out homeless camps from City Park, but MS-13 claims it as their gang territory. Yes, that's where we want our little kids to go play, in gang territory. An LA official said that efforts to clear out the City Park of homeless camps are being complicated by the MS-13 gang, which considers the park their territory. Officials are closing MacArthur Park in hoping of driving out the homeless and renovating the 35-acre recreation area, but the vicious criminal gang is getting in the way of their outreach to homeless people, according to a report by the LA Times. The gang regularly terrorizes residents near the park and has targeted transgender people and other LGBTQ members for threats and intimidation. In March, a 19-year-old MS-13 gang member was charged with violently assaulting a transgender person while yelling derogatory insults. In 2019, another MS-13 gang member was charged with 3 counts of attempted murder over attacks on transgender people. So, the leftoid argument once again. Do we defend people with brown skin who are gang members, who are possibly illegal immigrants, or do we defend the transgender people? The war of the left, and it continues to eat itself. Meanwhile, leaving a park unable to be cleaned. What else can we do today? Alright, so let's do these last 2 here. We'll save these other 2 for tomorrow, but let's grab these 2 because they're relevant. And let's do Twitter trending for the day. From The Verge, Facebook is back online after a massive outage that also took down Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Oculus. From Richard Lawler and Alex Health. Just as Facebook's Antigone Davis was live on CNBC defending the company over whistleblower allegations and its handling of research data suggesting Instagram is harmful to teens, its entire network of services suddenly went offline. The outage started just before noon Eastern Time and took nearly 6 hours before it was resolved. This is the worst outage for Facebook since the 2019 incident. It took its site offline for more than 24 hours as the downtime hit hardest on the small businesses and creators who rely on these services for their income. Facebook issued an explanation for the outage on Monday evening, saying it was all due to a configuration issue. The company says it doesn't believe any user data was impacted. Imagine using Facebook. Although, I'm streaming to Instagram right now too, so I guess, just as guilty here. But what I do have to say, what I do have to see off of this is, this might actually have been the most productive day for boomers in history. Just saying. Alright, last one. From the Dissociated Press. William Shatner to fly to space aboard Blue Origin rocket. From Marcia Dunn. Man, I don't know if that chunky fucker could pass the physical test. Captain Kirk is rocketing into space next week, boldly going where no other sci-fi stars have gone before. Bezos' space travel company, Blue Origin, announced Monday that Star Trek actor William Shatner will blast off from West Texas on October 12th. Yes, it's true. I'm going to be a rocket man. The 90-year-old tweeted. He added, "It's never too late to experience new things." Bezos, the founder of Amazon, is a huge fan of the sci-fi series and even had a cameo as a high-ranking alien in the 2016 film Star Trek Beyond. His rocket company invited Shatner to fly as a guest. Shatner will become the oldest person to go into space. He'll join 3 others, 2 of them paying customers, aboard a Blue Origin capsule. He will wind up being the second actor to reach space this month. Russia is launching an actress and a film director into the International Space Station on Tuesday for almost 2 weeks of movie making. Shatner's flight, by comparison. I mean, this is Shatner. Do I have to read it like him? Shatner's flight, by comparison, will last just 10 minutes and reach no higher than about 66 miles or 106 kilometers, if that's the way you measure things. The capsule will parachute back to the desert floor, not far from where it took off. With flights short so long, space tourism is picking up steam fast. Virgin Galactic carried founder Richard Branson to the edge of space with 5 others in July, followed 9 days later by Bezos' space hop. Elon Musk's SpaceX, meanwhile, launched its first private crew last month. A Pennsylvania entrepreneur who bought his 3-day flight and took along 2 contest winners and a cancer survivor. Virgin Galactic's ship launches from an airplane and requires 2 pilots. Blue Origin and SpaceX's capsules are fully automated, but the passengers must pass medical screenings and, among other things, be able to quickly climb several flights of steps at the launch of the tower to get to the capsule or out of it in an emergency. How the hell did he do that for the last season of Star Trek? Alright, that's all we have for news today. I mean, congratulations to Shatner. I mean, he spent his career pretending to be in space, and now he actually gets to be in space. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, actually. I think that's kind of awesome. But that's where we go from there. And the last thing we do on Tuesday is our Twitter trending. So let's have a look and see what we have trending right now. Let's refresh it and let's see. From the United States trends, number 1, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the final Mr. Sakurai Presents, goes live in 35 minutes, 7 a.m. Pacific time. So they're doing, I believe it's the Nintendo Direct right now, so they're introducing stuff, and I guess they're doing another Super Smash Bros. Game. I don't know. I own a GameCube. That's how far advanced my Nintendo prowess goes. And I have a DS Lite too, I guess, so that's newer than the GameCube, but that's about it. World Teachers Day. Celebrating and thanking teachers around the world on October 5th. To those who inspired us to be who we are today, thank you. On Tuesday's World Teachers Day, we pay tribute to the invaluable contributions of teachers to students, communities, and societies. It's vital that teachers are heard, supported, and empowered. Well, I know that there are right now some mixed opinions on teachers as far as what they're teaching, what they're doing, and the values that they're trying to instill in kids. But really, honestly, I mean, the people that do teach you, you should be giving some appreciation to. I know the ones who are responsible for me sitting here right now, and it's not every teacher I ever had either. I know the ones that are responsible. I can tell you which ones are responsible, except that I would dox myself because I came from a very, very small community. But I know which ones are responsible for the fact I'm sitting here. I know exactly which ones are responsible for it. And I do have to thank those ones and appreciate those ones. I'm not going to do it across the board, because there were some bad teachers, and I'm not going to run just straight across the board that way, but I know which ones put me here, which ones are the reason that I sit here in this chair and yell into a microphone every morning. I know which ones are doing that, so, and I can appreciate those ones too. We'll skip the Tuesday vibes. House of the Dragon. HBO releases a trailer for the House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones prequel series coming in 2022. I've never seen Game of Thrones and I've never read the books. I'm interested in the books. I'm less interested in the TV series, but I'm interested in the books. The next one is Scream. They're making a new Scream movie. Have a new idea. Have a new idea. And the last one is Doomslayer. Doomslayer me costume in SSBU. Final me costumes revealed. Octoling, Jughead, and Doomslayer. Shit, I'll even take Master Chief. Just let me have this. Come on, give me Doomslayer, Dante, or even Master Chief. You gave us Steve, Sakurai. You can give us another memeable fighter. I believe in you. Apparently, people were hoping that Doomslayer was in Super Smash Brothers, and apparently he is. Now, is Doomslayer, is that Doom or is that Halo? Because that looks like a Halo outfit. I don't know. I've never played Doom, and I played Halo once. But that's what they have going on for that. And it looks like they kind of made him into a little chibi kind of Doomslayer too, if he's Doomslayer. Because we see full size, is that Samus? Yeah, full size Samus in light suit, and then little teeny tiny Doomslayer over here. But he's also drawn in kind of the more comical version, like Mario is over here. So that's what we see coming out of that. And that's it for the day. Let's head out of here. Change up the track. And let's go. Alright, so thanks everybody who came by and hung out with me. Thanks everybody who went back and checked out Tweets by Brit after last night's show too. That was a great time and awesome. I love talking to Brit, and we've been friends for a while, and I actually got the chance to have a conversation with her for almost 45 minutes afterwards too. And we caught up on a lot of things. I don't think I've sat down and talked to Brit since... It's been a while. And I always enjoy the company off of that. And hopefully they will be, whatever project she continues to do, will be showing up on the Turn Some Pages Productions network. And hopefully her artwork will as well, because she really is one of the best. She absolutely is. So look forward to that. Go check that out if you haven't seen it already. Otherwise, we're going to head out of here today. We'll be back here tomorrow morning for more news, more commentary, and more stupid shit the government does. And we'll talk a little bit about the stuff out of Tucson too, and Arizona as well. The fact that they don't think they have an immigration crisis, and there was a shooting there yesterday. So we'll talk about that. Plus all the other stuff that's fit to print, or in the case of CNN, not fit to print, tomorrow for more contemporary. Until then, you guys, take care. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.